Ah yes, fanboy. That ever so popular word. What used to be used as a way of describing someone who is highly devoted and in a way biased with their opinions about certain games and consoles has now become a simple definition of one who likes what one hates. While this is a fun word to use, I believe it's also an easy word to use as it requires no actual thinking whatsoever when it comes to discussing one's enjoyment of a specific thing, in this case, consoles. A lot of people here in this community that get called a fanboy, from my perspective, really aren't fanboys at all. For me, your words don't make you a fanboy, your actions do. Yes, I'm aware that my own definition actually does kind of go against the real definition, but I have a reason for that. When it comes to fanboyism in this digital world we call the internet, and especially YouTube, I separate the definition into two different ways of explaining it, one way being real and one way being fake. The fake are those who say, and the real are those who do. Now what I'm implying by those who say is this. Any one of us can get on YouTube and say console A is the best console ever. That doesn't necessarily make you a fanboy, it just makes you a person who feels console A is the best console. The word fanboy seems to enter the topic only when a person can't really understand how one can like console A more than console B or C. The same logic can be used for someone who says console A sucks. The word fanboy gets thrown in yet again, as this time it seems the person who heard those words can't understand how someone could possibly think that console A sucks. And since they can't see it from the other person's perspective, the word fanboy comes in. This has more to do, however, with a closed-minded person. And most of the time, the real fanboy will be the one who uses the word first because they can't figure out why their favorite console isn't preferred. What this shows us is that in a lot of cases, the word fanboy works as nothing more than a placeholder in an equation that particular person can't solve. And since a lot of time when someone says fanboy, the word is used based more on the emotions of the person that said it than it is the person or people they're saying it to, we don't really know who a lot of real fanboys are because in most cases, every last one of us will be seen as a fanboy by someone. Oh yes, I've been called a fanboy of the PS3, Wii, and even 360 despite not owning one. Yet strangely, I've never been called a fanboy of Final Fantasy VI, which is actually the one thing I really am still a fanboy of. One of you please call me a Final Fantasy VI fanboy. I'm starting to feel left out. One huge mistake that seems to be made quite often is trying to argue against someone's opinion. Well, maybe not so much arguing than telling them they are 100% wrong. This is why in a lot of cases you may see a video where someone starts off by saying it's just their opinion and halfway through they say I'm 100% right on this. In this case, the word opinion gets used as a cover-up for I'm 100% correct. This way, if someone replies to that person and says, you're wrong and you don't know what you're talking about, the other person can then reply with, hey, it's just my opinion. However, you can't argue against an opinion because then you're telling the person who says, I don't like this console, that they are wrong in how they feel about what they do and don't actually like, which in turn makes the person that uses the word fanboy sound like a complete idiot. Now then, if you brag about something you have no intention of buying, you're not a fanboy. You're someone who brags about what you have no intention of buying. And in this case, there may be different reasons why someone would do this. Despite all of the fighting and hatred that's going on in the community, I'm almost certain that when people bash a console, they do so not to hurt the feelings of the console itself, since that's not really possible, and not to hurt the feelings of the company that made said console. They do it because they have a strong hatred for the fan base that supports the console. This is why the words Xbot, drone, and retard have absolutely nothing to do with the companies, but instead the fan base. I'm one who doesn't care too much for the Xbox 360. I don't hate it, but it just isn't for me. If I make a video and bash the console, three things will happen. Those of my viewers that really hate the 360 fan base, not the 360 itself, would love it. Those who hate the PS3 fan base, once again not the console, would hate it. And those who like the Wii probably wouldn't even give a damn. This in turn means I could expect a video by someone who hates the Sony fanbase. In this video, I would then be called a PS3 fanboy or drone, whichever. Then I would be made fun of. This is why it's very difficult to beat someone who hates a fanbase instead of a console. Those who make videos about why they hate a console and get a reply from someone who hates a fanbase can't win in this situation simply because they're arguing about two different things. One hates the console and the other hates the fanbase, but the person who hates the fanbase is simply using the console as ammunition to try and anger the one who doesn't like the console. So the word fanboy, drone, Xbot, or retard ends up being a translation of I really don't know how to explain why they hate what I like or why they like what I hate. So these words end up getting thrown in as placeholders. And everyone who hates the same fan base as the person who uses the word will in fact agree with them. This not only explains why trying to convince people that your favorite console is the best makes you look stupid, but why it's also impossible for a neutral gamer to exist in this community. A neutral gamer can't really exist in the world of fanboyism because by definition, it's actually rather impossible to be a neutral gamer, especially here on YouTube. Most people expect a neutral gamer to like every console, game, and peripheral equally, but by the way a person's mind works alone, that's not really possible. If one were to ask a neutral gamer if they could only keep one of their consoles, which one would it be? Their answer wouldn't be, I love all consoles equally, so I would get rid of all three because I'm not biased. That sounds rather ridiculous. Of course they would keep one. And that is where the placeholder word would get thrown in. If they said, I'd keep the Wii, then right then and there, they are now a Weetard. Same would work for Drone or Xbot. And because of this, most people's definition of neutral is either you like all three consoles equally, which as I said isn't possible, or you like all three consoles, however, prefer the one they like the most. If you don't fit that group, then by their definition, you can't really be a neutral gamer, but instead a fanboy in disguise. And with this type of logic, as we can easily see here on YouTube, being a neutral gamer in the eyes of others just isn't possible. And this puts the neutral gamer in a lose-lose situation they can't get out of, which in turn explains why everybody who said in the YouTube community, I am a neutral gamer, has been told by a fan of a certain console, no you're not. Fanboys hate the word neutral. Either you like all three consoles equally, or you like all three consoles but still prefer their favorite one. End of story. Guys, if someone owns all three consoles but bashes one of them yet still play it, they're still a neutral gamer. They just don't have neutral feelings about all three consoles or neutral feelings about all three fan bases of said console. So a neutral gamer who were to hate the Xbox fan base would play the Xbox 360 but at the same time make fun of it on YouTube. This way they can still enjoy playing the 360 and pissing off the 360 fan base. And this tactic works the same way for PS3 and Wii. Gaming and feelings are two separate things, as once you get into a game, you're no longer thinking about what console is your favorite or what consoles other people like, your mind is stuck in the game. But now I've told you all what I believe doesn't make a fanboy. Time to tell you what I believe does make a fanboy. At the start I told you that there are those who say and those who do. A real fanboy, in my eyes, does. What do I mean by this? Remember the game Final Fantasy VII and how a lot of people praise this game as either the best Final Fantasy ever made or the best game ever made, period? Remember how people would brag and say this game couldn't be topped? Those people weren't really Final Fantasy VII fanboys. Those were the people who really liked Final Fantasy VII. So then who were the fanboys? Remember the people that dressed up as their favorite FF7 characters on a constant basis? The people who would change their own personality to try and be just like Sephiroth? The people who became so obsessed with this game that they ended up trying to live it instead of just play it? Those people were the fanboys, and completely out of their damn minds. So where does my definition of fanboy fit when it comes to the YouTube community? Well, like I said, a lot of people are saying, but not many are actually doing. A lot of people are saying that their console is the best and are trying to prove that to be a fact, yet they haven't proved anything. So they end up trying again using the same logic and same words. So if you ever wonder why this community is getting boring, it's because people are stuck still trying to convince everyone that their console is the best and are using the same logic as they did years ago, yet still haven't figured out that they cannot convince anyone who doesn't like their console. But you know what? That doesn't make them fanboys. That just makes them a person who's wasting their own time. My definition of fanboy in the YouTube community isn't defined by the person who praises their favorite company. They can say all they want that their company or console is the best. Those are just words. It isn't even the person who says they hate something when the company they hate or the fan base of that company they hate does it, but then praises it when the company they like does it. Those may be hypocrites, but they aren't fanboys. The fanboy in a way does play a role in hypocrisy, but the difference is they'll actually buy it, i.e. they actually do instead of just say. If I as a PS3 fan said that I thought the Wiimote was stupid or casual or just for kids, I'm not a PS3 fanboy. I may sound ignorant in what I say and I may piss off a lot of the Nintendo fanbase, but the label of fanboy doesn't go to me. If I then say the PS Move is awesome, I'm still not a fanboy. My words make me a hypocrite, yes, but my actions don't, since I would have no intention of buying it. However, if I actually did buy the PS Move, then I'm a fanboy and a hypocrite, because now it means that I only bought it because my favorite company made it despite my hatred for motion controls. This means either all of the bashing I did about the Wiimote had nothing to do with me really thinking it was casual or stupid or for kids, but instead was because I either hated Nintendo or hated Nintendo's fanbase. But since I bought the PS Move, everything I said before about the Wiimote gets thrown out the window. This same logic can be used against the Nintendo and Microsoft fanbases. If a 360 owner bashes the PSI as they truly hate that style of gaming, then buys Connect and praises it, they too would be a fanboy and a hypocrite. If they only praised it but had no intention of buying it, then that means they're only praising it to piss off the PS3 fanbase. Thus, as I said earlier, may make them hypocrites, but not really fanboys. When it comes to hypocrisy in the gaming community, it's impossible not to be one. We've all been hypocrites at some point, as when trying to explain something, we sometimes forget what we said before, and may end up going against our own words. That's why the only other word that's easy to use in the YouTube gaming community other than fanboy is hypocrite, which is why you also always hear someone say, so and so is a hypocrite. But as I said, hypocrite alone doesn't automatically mean fanboy. It's not the people who say my company is the best. It's the people who'll buy up everything that company makes simply because it's that company, even if deep down they actually hate what that company made. In most cases, guys, the word fanboy gets used in the wrong way, as it seems to be a word based more on the emotions of the person using it than it does the person that they're using it at. Trying to convince someone that you're not a fanboy will only backfire and make you look bad, since to a real fanboy, it doesn't matter what console you own. If you don't like their favorite one the most, you're still a fanboy. It's almost the same as when someone may say, person A isn't a real gamer, then person A makes a video showing their gaming library as a way to prove that they're a gamer, and then they get a video response, you're still not a real gamer. This way of thinking not only explains why people can sound really stupid sometimes, but it also explains why YouTube has gotten so boring. In fact, people are actually going back to the very beginning of this YouTube console war. People are once again talking about Red Ring of Death or pay to play for the Xbox 360, people are saying the Wii is for little kids and has bad graphics, and people are saying the PS3's gaming library sucks. We've pretty much come full circle because, well, frankly put, people have run out of things to bitch about. So now it started all over again, which in turn makes YouTube now feel like a sitcom rerun. And that means the boredom will continue. So ladies and gentlemen, prepare yourself for the ultimate rerun.